Hey everyone, if you've ever been through a brutal breakup and know exactly how it feels to be completely lost afterward, then listen up. Smash that subscribe button, give this a thumbs up if it already hits home, and drop a comment below because I read every single one and I need to know I'm not alone in this. I truly believe the breakup with my ex was the absolute end for me, until her sister unexpectedly ignited these forbidden cravings I couldn't fight. This isn't some made-up tale, it's my honest, gut-wrenching confession about desire, guilt, and crossing lines I never thought I'd cross. 3 weeks after Mia and I split, I was stuck in my same old daily grind, alone in my apartment, flipping through channels mindlessly while the silence screamed at me. The walls seemed to close in with every tick of the clock, the air heavy with the weight of what I'd lost. I promised myself I'd move on, focus on work and forget the 2 years we'd shared, but the emptiness was crushing me from the inside out, a constant pressure that made my chest feel tight and my thoughts spiral. Mornings were the hardest. I'd wake reaching for the space beside me, my hand falling on cool sheets instead of the familiar warmth, and my breath would catch shallow and uneven, like the loneliness had stolen even that simple rhythm. "You can't keep doing this," I'd whisper to the empty room, voice trembling against the ache. "She's gone. You promised to let go." But the promise felt paper thin against the storm building inside, the way every quiet moment pulled me under like gravity I couldn't escape. Evenings blurred worse. I'd sit flipping channels, the TV glow the only light while memories flooded in uninvited. The soft brush of her shoulder against mine on that same couch, the way her laugh once cut through any silence like warm breath on cold skin. The internal war raged without mercy, one side begging me to stay strong, to heal, the other whispering that the hunger for closeness was growing too loud to ignore, an ache that spread like heat through fabric I wasn't supposed to feel anymore. The scent of rain drifting through the cracked window reminded me of nights we'd spent wrapped close, and I'd freeze, pulse quickening, ashamed of how the emptiness made everything feel urgent, too close, too tempting. I knew it was wrong to let the void push me toward thoughts I shouldn't name, especially with family ties still lingering like unspoken warnings, yet the craving sat there just beneath my skin, waiting, pulling, and as those 3 weeks dragged on, the tension inside me tightened until I could barely breathe. The silence no longer empty but charged with something I didn't understand yet. Something that felt dangerously alive. Then Sophie, Mia's sister, appeared in my life again, showing up unannounced with that box of my belongings from their family home. We'd always had this easy family dynamic where she was the one I could joke with casually during holidays and dinners, sharing light moments that never meant anything more. But now, standing there in my doorway with her concerned eyes fixed on me, the proximity felt charged in a way it never had before, her rain-kissed skin, and the way she shifted her weight making the doorway feel like a threshold I shouldn't cross. I let her inside for what started as a routine chat, the kind we'd had dozens of times under the family roof, her asking how I was coping with that gentle tone that made my chest tighten, me thanking her for bringing my stuff and offering her a drink out of politeness to keep things light. It was all so normal, the two of us sitting across from each other at the kitchen table, the box set aside as if it was just another errand, yet something in me shifted as the conversation flowed, and I caught myself thinking, why does her voice suddenly feel like the only thing cutting through this fog that had swallowed me whole? Filling the room with a warmth that made my skin tingle. The radio softly played "Stay" by Rihanna in the background, lyrics hitting different now, speaking to the part of me that didn't want to be alone anymore, the melody weaving through the air like an invisible thread connecting us. Internally I wrestled hard. She's Mia's sister, this awareness is wrong, I can't let it happen. The voice in my head repeating like a warning bell, the guilt rising because the family ties were still so tangled and fresh from the breakup. I tried to push the feeling down, to remember all the reasons this was off limits, but the obsession was already taking root and I couldn't look away, not from the way her eyes softened when she smiled at a shared memory, not from the subtle heat that seemed to radiate from her side of the table. One part of me screaming to stop this before it went any further, the other part craving the closeness that made me feel alive for the first time in weeks, the forbidden pull like gravity I couldn't fight no matter how hard I tried. My fingers itched to move closer on the table, the proximity an inch away from something dangerous, and as her breath seemed to match the unsteady beat of my own, I felt the tension build until it was almost unbearable, the moment stretching into something that left me trembling inside. knowing I was on the verge of a line I wasn't supposed to approach. She stood to leave, the chair scraping back with a quiet finality that made my chest tighten. I followed her to the door under the pretense of politeness, but my steps dragged, heavy with the weight of everything still unspoken between us. I meant for the goodbye to be brief, arms around her in that familiar family way we'd shared so many times before. Yet the hug stretched, her warmth pressing closer than it should, breath brushing warm against my neck like a secret neither of us could take back. Our faces hovered inches apart, her eyes soft and searching, and she whispered, voice trembling just enough to undo me, "I wish things were different. I wish it didn't have to feel this wrong." Then our lips met in a kiss that crashed through every wall I'd built, electricity surging where guilt should have stopped it cold. What the hell am I doing? This is betrayal, raw and unforgivable. To Mia, to the family that once opened their door to me like I belonged. Panic clawed up my throat even as the fire caught and spread, and there was no going back from that single, shattering instant. The encounters multiplied after that in a haze I couldn't fight, each one deeper and more tangled than the last. Our first night unfolded right there in the quiet dark of my apartment, the jasmine scent wrapping around me like it had been waiting years to be this close, her presence chasing the crushing emptiness until the only thing left was this aching pull. I told myself desperately over and over, me and I are over, this is just a people healing what broke. Yet the words tasted like ash against the shame flickering at the edges of my mind. By the third, safe in the sheets of my bed with whispered secrets spilling out between every near touch that sent fresh shivers racing through the space between us, I was hooked beyond reason. When she made the world feel live again, morality simply stopped mattering. These stolen moments brought more than the cravings, though, quiet salvation as I hadn't known I needed so badly. Sophie became the anchor I didn't realize was missing, her gentle words and steady presence slowly dragging me up from the depression that had been drowning me day after day. She even covered a couple of my mounting bills with a casual shrug and that familiar half-smile, murmuring family helps family like it was the simplest truth, and for the first time in weeks I felt seen, valued, almost whole. But the fractures were already forming, late nights leaving me paranoid and wired, jumping at every creak in the hallway with the fear Mia might somehow piece it together. Guilt twisted into nightmares that jolted me awake gasping, sheets damp with sweat and heart hammering like it knew the truth I kept trying to bury. And Sophie. She started wanting more than these hidden hours, her words carrying quiet hints of commitment I couldn't give without burning everything left of my old life to the ground. The aftermath clawed at me constantly now, eating away at the fragile piece we'd carved out. As we lay there in the dim glow of another stolen evening, her fingers hovering an inch from mine on the pillow, I searching mine with that same quiet hunger that mirrored my own hidden storm, the tension coiled tighter than ever. One more breath, one more word, and I knew it could all come undone in ways we wouldn't survive. The room felt smaller than ever as I lay there beside her, the faint jasmine trace still clinging to the air like a promise I knew I shouldn't keep. Her fingers hovered just an inch from mine on the pillow, close enough that the warmth bled through the space between us, making my pulse stutter in ways that had nothing to do with safety. I forgot how to breathe for a second, the way her eyes searched mine pulling me under like gravity I had no defense against. It all hit me harder than before. The choice staring me down, demanding I face it now before another heartbeat made it impossible to turn back. Looking back on these past weeks, I realize I stand at a crossroads I never asked for, one that twists my gut with every passing thought. Do I cut ties with Sophie right here, right now, to salvage whatever scraps of my soul remain and steer clear of the explosion waiting to tear through the family we both still pretend isn't hanging by a thread? Or do I give in completely, surrender to these cravings that have become the sole light keeping the darkness at bay, the one thing making the days bearable after Mia left me shattered? The war inside rages fiercer than any storm I've weathered, one voice raw with shame insisting this has to end before the guilt consumes us both whole, while the other clings desperately to the way she makes the emptiness feel full again, even if it's just for stolen hours. Deep down, beneath the ache and the hunger, I know with a certainty that chills me. Pushing forward like this could ruin us all, splinter the last connections and leave scars that no amount of whispered excuses could ever heal. Yet her nearness tonight makes the decision feel like it's slipping through my fingers, the subtle rise and fall of her breath sissing with mine in a rhythm that whispers stay, just a little longer. And you, Yes, you who's followed this confession through every twist and hidden corner of my heart, I need you to be brutally honest in the comments because I'm lost in the middle of this without a map. Should I walk away from my ex's sister before the walls close and it's too late to save any of us from the fallout? Or is chasing this forbidden connection the risk I have to take, the only threat of something real after losing so much already? I'm torn apart here, split down the middle and bleeding out in ways I can't hide anymore. Your words the only thing that might anchor me before I fall completely. If this story of tangled desires and sleepless nights has struck a chord deep in you, if you're craving to hear more about that one night when we almost got exposed, the tension thick enough to taste when footsteps echoed too close, every hushed word laced with danger, every brush of proximity that left us both frozen on the brink, subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and type "I need part 2" in the comments below. Your response right here decides whether I keep laying it all bare or let this chapter fade into the silence I've come to fear. But as I sit with this now, the ache doesn't ease. It lingers like rain after the storm has passed, reminding me that some cravings don't fade with the morning light. And in the quiet hours when sleep won't come, I can't help but wonder if the line we crossed was always waiting for us, and if the bittersweet shadow of what might have been will be the only companion I have left when the truth finally breaks free.